Hamburg must have then been the vice centre of Europe. Every sort of vice and every corruption, you name it, and that was Hamburg. And they were there when they were 17 years old. And of course, all the prostitutes used to make a big play for them, and the transvestites used to try and get them in bed. Well, this naturally turned them into old men, in their mind. They weren't the sweet, innocent kids that Brian Epstein projected them to the public.
It starts off, you're in Hamburg, you're 18, you've never been abroad in your life, and you've got a bit of money in your pocket, and you go drinking on a Saturday night, and you end up on the Sunday morning, and you do a couple of loony things like most 18-year-olds or servicemen abroad. There's always some lunacy. And it just grows, Someone remembers the lunacy, and they say, oh, do you remember that? It's the old story, And it grows into this amazing legend about, I remember them, they were tough days. But, it wasn't that much different from now. It was a little bit more lunacy, that's all, Quite a bit more lunacy. But, it was only kind of good, clean fun. Good, dirty fun, actually.
He asked his father and myself to listen to a record. He said, forget about the singer, just listen to the backing group. Actually, we always were fairly interested in all the records because being in the business. And he said, they are 4 boys and I'd like to manage them. It wouldn't take any longer than 2 afternoons or 2 half days at a time. It's just a sort of a part-time occupation. He said it would never interfere with business. But the first time we met the Beatles, they were playing in Southport. And Brian was very insistent that we should go over. And I'd never been to a rock and roll concert before, and I asked him what I should wear. and he said, look young, which was a bit difficult.
The best things in life are free, but you can keep them for the birds and bees. Now give me more. What I want, that's what I want.
Concerning the Beatles?
Yes, go on.
Brian could show them a way of life they didn't know.
Just let's add a little bit more to that. Provisionally confirming.
He was quite a father figure. And also, he was very determined that they were going to reach the top.
Provisionally subject.
Hello?
Yes, I'm calling for the manager of the Beatles.
What is his name?
May we have his name, please?
Their manager's name is Mr. Brian Epstein.
Brian Epstein.
Epstein, what was the first name? B-R-Y-A-N-D-R-I-A.
The manager's name is Brian Epstein.
Brian Epstein was introduced to me by a mutual friend who worked for the publishing department. And what had happened was he'd gone in to get a lacquer cut of some of the boys' tapes. And the engineer heard it and thought it was quite interesting. He told the publisher fellow, who rang me up, and said, this guy's been around every record company in London. He's getting nowhere. Would you see him? So I saw him and listened to the tapes, and they were pretty awful, which is, I understood why people had turned them down. But I thought they were interesting, and I thought they were interesting enough to see them. So I said, bring the boys down to London and I'll give them a test. I just took it as a fairly normal, routine job. And then when I met them, I liked them, and I thought they were great. I didn't think they would be worldwide hit writers, because the songs they'd produced were pretty elementary. Love Me Do was about the best of the bunch. They were very quick learners, After the first couple of years, they knew almost as much about recording as I did. And they were always wanting to experiment, always asking questions.
We did a lot of learning together. He had a very great musical knowledge and background. So he could translate for us and suggest a lot of things, which he did, and he'd come up with amazing technical things like slowing down the piano and playing it slow and putting it on and things like that, where we'd be saying, well, can we only go and e, and he'd say, well, look, chaps, I thought of this afternoon. Last night I was talking to whoever he was talking, and I came up with this, and we'd say, oh, great, or put it on here, But he also come up with things like, well, have you heard an oboe? Oh, which one's that? Is this one? Yeah, that would be nice. So it was really, we grew together.
more fun in the record if there's a few sounds that you don't really know what they are. And if something happens on here, you know, I couldn't tell you what, because we have a special man who sits here and goes like this. And the guitar turns into a piano or something, you know. And then you may say, why don't you use a piano? Because the piano sounds like a guitar.
She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. You know it's up to you. I think it's only fair. I can hurt you too. Apologize to her because she loves you, and you know that can't be bad. She loves you, and you know you should be glad. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember getting a record called She Loves You in October of 1963. And I played it. I had a record review board. We played 5 records, and we would average about 10,000 calls, and they would vote for what record they liked best. Our audience did. Beatles came in 3rd. I then played it for about 2 or 3 weeks, and nothing happened. I did my Christmas show, went away to Miami Beach, you remember, on a vacation. I started putting on the radio, and all of a sudden, every other record was a Beatle record. Got a call from my program director at WINS and said, hey, you got to come back. I said, why? He says, the Beatles are coming. I said, well, get yourself an exterminator.
Hello, everybody. There's the Beatles on Murray the K's Swinging Soiree Show.
Babe, we are What's Happening. The Beatles and Murray the Cave.
Oh, where are we going? The TV place now.
Stand by and listen to Wins and tell your friends. Tomorrow morning, an exciting morning on Wins' Brad Phillips has the battles of the Beatles. The Beatles take on all the groups in the world. Tomorrow on Wins, and your favorites will be represented by vote. Tomorrow night at 7, the Beatles read their own poetry on a documentary, Meet the Beatles. They're all over the world. Oh, really? 1 full hour with the Beatles. Tomorrow night from 7 to 8, here at Wins. Don't we ain't written no poetry. Looking for a filter cigarette.
Bobby Soxer is a girl who wears Bobby socks and is the typical teenage girl. And we put the name the Beatles right across the sock because we think that the girls in America are going to want to be associated with the Beatles, and that is certainly evidenced by what you've seen around here in the last day.